today I'm just going to show you how easy it is to can your own stock, whether that's beef, chicken, whatever. Today I'm doing turkey because I have a leftover turkey carcass and all the bones and some fat, and I want to make some stock or some bone broth. So I'm going to do it about the time length 6 to 8 hours, so it's going to be technically bone broth, and it's super easy. So all I do is all of these veggies in here, I typically every time that I make soup or make something with them, I keep a Ziploc baggie in the freezer and I put all my ends in there. And then when it comes time to go ahead and make soup, I just grab the baggie out of the freezer and I empty it into the stock pot with the bones and some seasonings, and that's all I do to get started. So grab yourself a stock pot, and if you have bones left from a dinner or even those little barbecue chickens from the store, I use them all the time. Peel the meat off of those for other things and use the little bones carcass from the barbecue chicken. It works perfect. So today we're going to be making turkey broth, which is going to be amazing, and I'm going to use it just in place of chicken broth for everything that I would typically use chicken broth for. So let's get started. So yesterday, the day before, after I made a big feast, I peeled all the turkey off of the carcass and I put it in a fridge in a bag, and now I have it. And so here are all the ends that I have been saving in my Ziploc bag, which includes celery, all sorts of celery ends. These are the things that the chickens don't typically want anyway, which is great. So nothing here goes to waste. If I don't use it in stock, I can compost it. Like potato skins are pretty much the only thing that I can't do anything with, so I compost them. But onion skins, bits of onion, all this extra garlic, and carrot ends. All this, of course, has been washed before I put it in there. And I even have a piece of green and purple cabbage from the outside of the cabbage. So yeah, just all that kind of stuff makes the most tasty broth. So now I'm just going to add in my turkey carcass and my neck, and I didn't even take any of the meat off the neck, so I'm going to get all of that deliciousness in here. And there's a lot of meat still on here, not a lot, but a fair bit, that it's going to make that really nice gelatinous kind of bone broth. And then we're going to be able to can it up. Okay, so that looks great. I've got everything in here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to top this up with water and add some seasonings. So as you can see, I've got my pot on the stove almost up to the top because I want to make as much as I can. And I've got some seasonings out here. So I'm just going to give this a stir and put it on high to get it going. And then after it gets really going, I think I'll turn it down so it's simmering for the rest of the time. So today I want to put in bay leaves, parsley, and of course, our homemade Mrs. Dash that I love so much. I put this no salt organic seasoning in everything. I just love it, and because it's got so many different spices and flavors and herbs in there. So, and of course salt and pepper. But other than that, I just kind of let the veggies, all the flavors come out of the vegetables and the turkey and everything combine, and it's going to be delicious. But I do like seasoning mine. Some people choose not to season theirs. They like to season it later, but I like mine to have as much flavor as possible, because then I can use a lower amount of salt later on. So I'm just going to add those things in now. This looks yummy already. Okay, so you can see how much stuff is in here. Potatoes or onion skins and all, everything. all of this gives so much beautiful flavor, and all these little bits of peel and everything is going to not be in here because we're going to strain it out. And the end of the celery. So next time, if you don't save your ends, try and do that in a Ziploc bag next time, and then you'll have it in the freezer when you want to make stock. So I'm going to add probably 2 teaspoons of pepper, sitting on the top so it looks a lot, and about 2 teaspoons of sea salt. And I'm going to do the same with that amount of parsley, about 2 tablespoons. 3 bay leaves, or if they're big, or 4. Okay, I added probably 5. I love the flavor of bay leaf. I think it just completely makes everything so nice. Okay, I'm just going to give our Mrs. Dash a shake, and I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 teaspoons. That. And you can use Costco's organic no salt seasoning in replace of that, or any kind of Mrs. Dash. But there is one other kind of no salt seasoning out there, and I'm not sure what it's called. I think it's Accent or something. That's terrible for you, and it's got it's got MSG and other things in there, but I wouldn't suggest to use that. That one has been out for a long time and is not healthy at all. And we're making such a nice healthy broth. You don't want to be adding any of that. Okay, that looks amazing. So I think what I'm going to do is let this sit here now and bring this up to a boil, and then when it does, I'm going to put it to a simmer for about 6 to 8 hours. Come back and give it a little stir every half an hour or so. The other thing is this can also be done in a smaller version in a crock pot. So I've done it before like that, and it's so easy because you just put it on high, get it up to temperature, and then put it on low and leave it either all day or overnight, and in the morning you've got your stock. But I just wanted to use the pot because I wanted to get as much as possible this time, because we are going to strain all of this vegetables and bones out of here so we get our beautiful broth left over to can. Okay, so I'll come back every hour or so and give it a stir, and then it should be done tonight, and I'll strain it and prepare my jars. So for now, I'm going to go down in the basement, dig out a box of jars, check that I have proper rings and seals for the right size that fit my little pressure canner. And anything with meat, or nowadays, is supposed to be done in a pressure canning. I grew up with everything, what they call now rebel canning, which was normal canning for us. We did every single thing, even meat, in water baths, and we're all survived, and we always knew if it didn't seal because it wouldn't do the when you open the lid. So, but nowadays it's highly recommended you do a pressure canning for anything with meat or low acid foods. So that's what I'm recommending you do. But it's totally up to you how you do it. You do need to follow the guidelines of how long, and if you were to water bath meat or broth or something, you do need to do it for an extended period of time. And I don't have the chart with me right now, but we're going to pressure can these, so we're not going to worry about that today. All right, so I'll be back in a little bit. I'll keep stirring this, and then when it's finished, we'll start our next project. Okay, so we're about halfway through our time, and I just came over and the water was about this far down. So I've topped it up, not all the way, but I've topped it up with about this much more water in my pot, and I'm bringing it back up to a simmer again, and I'm going to finish cooking it the rest of the way. So that's up to you if you want to add more water halfway through, but it does steam away a lot of it. So this broth now has been boiling simmering for 8 hours, and it's looking really great. I can smell it. Everything is really broken down and it's just so nice. It's gonna be beautiful. So now what we need to do is start straining some of this. Oh, here's the heavy pot. So now what we need to do is I've got a strainer out here and a bowl. So you're gonna need something to strain stuff into, and I'm just gonna do a little bit at a time because I wanna leave some of this stock inside of my stock pot for some soup that I wanna make. So I'm not gonna be canning all of it. So I'm just gonna get started with getting the stuff out of there. Now you can use any kind of slotted spoon. I'm just using this big, huge spoon. And look at all that amazing bones and stuff. I'm just gonna get out by hand the biggest chunks, and then I'm going to, like, the obvious pieces of stuff, and I'm also gonna save any of this beautiful juice stock and put it back, combine it with the rest of this. There's also some nice pieces of meat in here from the neck that I might go through and maybe leave in here, little pieces. I'm not gonna take all of them out. I'm just gonna get the majority of, make sure I definitely don't want bones in it or anything like that. It smells so good. So I did it for 4 hours last night, and then I put it outside on my patio, and I covered it up, and I thought, oh, I hope the bears don't get into it. But lucky thing, no bears smelled it. I kept the lid on while it was cooling and put a towel over it, and then I brought it back in the house today and did it for 4 more hours just because it was getting late last night and I didn't want to go to bed with it on, and it's too much to fit into my crock pot. Okay, so that now I've got quite a bit out of here. You can see all the beautiful bones and pieces of veggies in there. So I am still gonna need to strain this huge pot to get all this stuff out, but I just wanted to get the majority of that out. And look at that beautiful stock you just made. It's going to be great. So I'm just gonna get the rest of this out of here, and then we will get to popping it into our jars. So now I'm just going to strain the rest of this beautiful broth off into through a strainer into another bowl to start with. But I am going to strain all of it, even though I want to use it for another project. I still need to make sure that there's no bones. So it's looking like I've got close to everything out, but that's my second bowl. Now I'm going to be on to my third bowl next. Oh, this one's got some big chunks of veggies in it, so, and all the goodness from the bottom. Okay. Is that ever a nice looking broth? I forgot to mention last night that I added 2 teaspoons of turmeric. Turmeric right before you, or even if you add it before you strain it. It just adds a really nice yellow color, and of course it's so good for you. So I saw that somewhere and I tried it, and it's really delicious. And it does make the stock turn from sometimes a really unfavorable, almost gray tinge to a lovely yellow tinge, like I'm going to show you here in a minute. All my stock that I've strained off. How good this looks. So I've got 3 bowls strained off, and a little bit in here I got to get out because I want to wash this pot and use it again. But isn't this lovely? Such a nice, beautiful broth, and it's probably going to have quite a bit of gelatinous fat in it because of all the bones and that I left so much meat on the bones. So I'm just going to get these organized, and I've got all my jars here all washed and prepared. I just have to warm them up a little bit because we want to put warm jars into warm pressure canner. Now I'm just using the small pressure canner that just fits like 4 or 5 jars sometimes, and I'm going to use that. But if you have a large pressure canner, feel free to use that. I don't have one. I only have this big one, this little one. So that's what I'm going to be using today, and I'm going to have to do multiple batches. So an important tool that you need either way is the grabber, the jar grabber, and a ladle. And what I'm going to be using is this kind of like funnel. And then I've got all these lids here that I've heated up and sterilized in different sizes. Now those jars I showed you, I'm not going to need all those jars because that was a lot of jars. But I did extra because I have another project idea that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. So I just washed and sterilized them all. But that's all you really need to do to get started. You also need, except for one more important thing, is a nice clean dry rag to wipe the jar lids. And sometimes people will use vinegar to wipe around at the end on their jar lids, but I'm not going to do that today. I'm just using a damp cloth. Now I'm also going to be using different rings because I have all sorts of different jars. So I've got a bunch of different rings in different sizes. So let's start funneling our jars. Okay, so today I'm just using these these pint jars, but if I had a pressure canner that fit quart jars, that's what I would use. So I'm just going to put this in here like this, and look at this beautiful stock. It's so nice. And I do use such a big quantity. I am going to look into getting a bigger pressure canner so that I can do bigger batches for sure. But I don't mind because I love the electric one. You just push it in, plug it in, push the button and leave and do whatever you want, and then it cools itself down, vents itself, does everything. I don't have to worry about a disaster or anything like that. It's super handy, and it doesn't actually take that long at all. And I'm not going to have, well, we'll see. Maybe I'll have more jars here than I expect I'm going to have. Because this broth is beautiful, and all these seasonings and lovely bits at the top. Wow, it's going to be good. And I'm going to be making some really delicious soup next that I'm going to share with you guys as well. and I'm going to use this broth. So I'm actually going to set some aside and not can it today. So I'm just going to fill 4 jars because that's what this little pressure canner fits, even though it calls itself an extra large. It's not extra large to me. Okay, I might just put a hair more in there. Okay, so now I'm going to use my clean, dry cloth and get anything off of the edges. Now I'm being really sure when I wash these that I didn't have any chips in my jars, and because that would make it so it doesn't, oh shoot, I gotta do that again, I tipped it over. That would make it so it wouldn't seal. So you gotta be really cautious that you got good jars, and I recycle anything that's got a chip or anything. And also too, with your lids, need to make sure that they're not all rusted out and dinted in, and that your seals are new and fresh. I'm just going to go around there one last time to be sure. That looks good. And then I'm going to pop my lid. So I'm using this size, and I got all sorts of different sizes of jars. That's why I got all sorts of different sizes of lids. And these are new lids. I haven't tried reusing some lids, but I'm going to be doing that soon. Seals, I mean, I'm going to use new pre-used seals that are in good condition. But I'm going to do that on a non-meat related item. Okay, so I'm not going to tighten these 100% super tight, but they're about 95% tight. And look at that beautiful broth. I go through a lot of broth, so I'm going to be interested to see how many I get out of this. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Power Pressure Cooker XL. I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to place my jars these 4 jars that we just filled up, and you can already see the fat forming. I love that because that's so much nutrient dense bone broth right there. Okay, so those are in there, and there's a little rack on the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is add some water that's fairly warm, up to 1/3 of the jar. So 1/3 of the jar in. So that's gonna be like a little bit less than half full. And I put the jars in first and then put the water in usually, because then I can kind of gauge how much I'm putting in there. And I didn't drain off any fat, like I showed you. All the fat's gonna be mixed in. And we had no, like when I strained it, there was no yucky froth on it anyways. Okay, so that's perfect. So now I've checked the seal of my pressure cooker, and this does pop out if you have one of these, so you can wash this after each use and clean the band. Now I'm going to click this to lock, turn this to seal, which is the circle button with the dot in the middle, and then I'm going to put can, cook time, 2 hours, and that's it. Now I walk away. So the pressure canning guide that I have says 1.5 hours for these jars that have meat stock in them. So I'm doing mine for 2 hours just to be on the safe side, but it says that you only need to do them for 1.5 hours. So if you have a regular pressure canner, follow the guidelines of whatever it says on there, or the correct guidelines online with the ball canning method, if that's what you want to do. So I've got those in there for 2 hours. I've got the rest of these jars staying warm right here, and I separated out a little bit of stock for my next soup. And so I'm gonna get, there's already 4 in there. I've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 jars, which is really great because I use a lot of chicken broth, or in our case turkey broth. But it's just beautiful, and it smells so good, and it already has so much seasoning in it without using a lot of salt. So I'm just going to keep canning away as this thing goes, and tidy up my kitchen, and I'll show you guys when I'm all finished. So my canner is cooling down and venting out. This is the great little power pressure cooker with the canning feature. It's gonna be amazing. Okay, I'm back, and my chicken broth is ready to go out of the canner. The pressure canner has depressured and steamed off, and I just want to show you how beautiful this looks. Isn't that amazing? Look at that gorgeous broth. So here's the difference between the two. Here's where before we can it, and after. So I'll show you the difference close up. Doesn't that look gorgeous? So I'm just going to take these out and put them on a thick towel. Wow, those look so beautiful. The color is just stunning. Okay, and that's how easy it is. So there's all the chicken broth out of the canner and looking just totally amazing. And here is the chicken broth before it goes in next. And I'm gonna pop 4 more and continue on until it's finished. So that's all, there you have it. They're just beautiful. And you guys can do that really quickly, and you have chicken broth and bone broth for so many things. Every kind of soup you can imagine. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed making the bone broth, and I know you'll like it to have it handy in your pantry for whenever you need anything. You just go down there and grab a few jars and you're good to go. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye, friends. So I ended up getting 16 beautiful jars, and you can see the fat on the top. They look so beautiful. They are in small jars. I would have done quarts if I could have fit them in my pressure canner, but that's okay. Now I can make smaller meals and just take out what I need. So I hope you guys give it a try and have a wonderful day. Bye, friends.